What has happened? What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fights. It was a big night of memorable moments. Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Left hand from Rockhold. Right hand went back from Mike Perry.
Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we arrived here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56. Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Perry on the tap. Right hand from McGregor. Double tap. With the king of violence.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, he did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top.
Welcome to hour number 2 of what we will call a Football Friday, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. A triple header of NFL Week 1 preseason action on this Friday evening. A triple header that is 3 games following a double header of preseason action to kick off Week number 1 in full around the National Football League last night on a Thursday. Are you ready for some football? Some Friday night football, DRS.
Absolutely. Who doesn't love football? I love it for 1 minute. I watch the kickoff. I see the first handoff, figure out how boring it is, and then I go about my evening at this point and maybe take some notes. Week number 2 is the week for the NFL that we want to watch. Yeah. If you want to get any starters technically into the equation and watch them play for at least a couple series at this point, it's just nice, though, to have football back on the TV. Like my daughter came in, it was like, you know, the preseason game was on. Football's on already. Yeah. I'm like, absolutely, get ready for it. Long haul starts right now. We got to make sure we're crossing our, T's and dotting our I's at this point, but I do like it back on. How excited I am for the, oh my goodness, handoffs throughout the second, third, and fourth quarters. It's a little tempered.
But, Donnie, we need some scoring, speaking of kickoffs, because if we don't have a ton of scoring, we won't get to see the NFL kickoff rules and the changes that have been made entering 2024. And these clubs around the league will not get the necessary practice, in-game reps that they need for a new season. Last night, 17-3, the victory for the Patriots over the Panthers in Foxborough. Total of 35.5 stayed well under. The Giants and the Lions did not score a single point in the second half. New York victorious, though, 14-3 over Detroit. A total of 35.5 stays well under. Might we see some more scoring? Friday night lights. We start in a battle of the birds. It's the Ravens and the Eagles in the Charm City in Baltimore, where Philadelphia is a 1.5-point favorite. Total at 34 and DRS earlier in the week. When these preseason lines became available for week number 1, the Ravens were the favored side, correctly so. Baltimore has been a dynasty in preseason football in the last decade or so. A 24-game preseason win streak came to a close last year that dated back to 2016 under John Harbaugh, who takes these preseason contests very seriously. So why are the other birds, that being the Eagles, favored tonight on the road?
It used to be in the past couple of years, like, how are you rating it? Sure, if you are a franchise, when the scoreboard is on, the clocks are like running, you really care about the final score. And apparently that's the case with the Baltimore Ravens, because it's usually just supposed to be a coin flip in the preseason. You don't really care about the game. Let's get some guys some burn, put them on tape. Let's just see how they do. And hopefully nobody gets injured. But it's apparent that you don't win 20 plus preseason games in a row, let alone like 3 games in a row, without actually caring what that final score is. Are we saying that the Baltimore Ravens are scripting plays to make sure they put them in the best possible position? No. But sometimes it just goes as far to say is, who are your quarterbacks here? Like, if you have athletic guys that have played in the NFL before, when the play breaks down, they're going to be able to get first downs. But now as you take a look, obviously Lamar Jackson, we're not going to see him tonight. Josh Johnson, aging veteran quarterback. Devin Leary, rookie. Emory Jones, rookie. You no longer have that, like, hey, you know what? The 4 preseason quarterbacks are going to play. They've all played in the NFL and have experience. And maybe that's the issue. And also, if you are just reading lines, if you read it yesterday, let's just say on the New England Patriots game, that's ridiculous. Close to a touchdown, just give me the points. You saw the way that ended up. There's a reason why these lines are moving, particularly even in the preseason, where maybe you're saying to yourself, a team that never loses all of a sudden is an underdog against an NFL team with the Eagles. They don't have a propensity to go out and dominate in the preseason, and now they're the favorites. That's a big swing here, and there is something to that.
Snoop Huntley used to be the backup for Lamar Jackson, playing a similar style of quarterbacking, and that's why you could rely on Baltimore even without Lamar, who, of course, was drafted in 2018. But Snoop's now on another AFC North team, a part of the Cleveland Browns organization at this moment. So Josh Johnson is the guy, veteran experience. Lamar Jackson will not play tonight. How do the young rooks look in Todd Monken's offense? We might see some of the starting O-line for Baltimore in this game, but again, no Lamar Jackson to start off the preseason for Baltimore. On the other side, DRS, your guy, Nick Sirianni, has been pretty shady about what his plans are for Philadelphia. In the last 2 press conferences where Sirianni has been at the podium, he has been asked about Jalen Hurts. Will he play? Won't he play in the preseason opener against Baltimore? What about the rest of the starters on either side of the football? He has really declined to give a true answer. Do you think we see Jalen Hurts and some of those Eagles starters tonight in Baltimore?
No, I don't think we see Jalen Hurts, but you still do have some capable backups for the Eagles. And by the way, if you are watching the way the Eagles are playing the preseason out, like, Nick Sirianni is one of the worst press conferences you can have, because you ask him a question who's going to play on offense, and by a minute or 2 in, he's talking about he remembers being, back in high school when his freshman coach was telling him something. It's just a winding, meandering thing. You never get anything out. Vic Fangio on the opposite side comes out and tells you who stinks on that day of practice, who might not be getting play, and also who doesn't deserve to play and who should be playing. So it's sort of refreshing to the head coach not say anything, the defensive coordinator basically throw you under the bus if you have a couple bad practice reps the day before. But again, having said that, you're just reading lines in this game. If it is going to be Kenny Pickett, dude's been in the NFL. He's got starts under his belt. Even Tanner McKee, who doesn't have a long reference, but actually has some pretty decent tape in the preseason from last year. And if you are just extending it down, Will Grier, he's been around the block in the NFL, who's been at it quite a bit here as a veteran presence. The better lineup at quarterback is actually on the side of the Eagles. So even if you're looking as a novice, better like, wait a second. This one team never loses in the preseason, where no matter what Harbaugh is telling you pre or post game, look, guys, I know we've won a lot of games, but we're not caring really about this. Yes, you are. You don't win that by happenstance. In the preseason, you can control basically who's playing and not playing and have those guys, look, I'm ready to play. I'm not ready to play. They've won too many games for them not to care. So I love the fact that they went, and you surprised me yesterday, not really looking at the line going I think this line is wrong on our graphic here. No. The Eagles are actually favored in that game tomorrow, which is wild to see. I'll run with that way because I do think the Eagles have the better quarterback combinations in the preseason right now than the Baltimore Ravens.
In whether it was prolific performance out of the quarterback room or not, the 2 better teams that had the better quarterbacks on paper with more NFL game rep experience did prevail last night. That was the New York Giants with Drew Lock and, of course, Tommy DeVito, and the Patriots, who played all 4 of their quarterbacks, including Jacoby Brissett and Drake May, and Bailey Zappi, who has a ton of reps. I would say Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee have a lot more game experience right now. Yes, Josh Johnson has been around the block a time or 2, but I would look to Philly's side. You look up and down the depth chart for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We're also probably going to see some of the youngsters tonight. Might we see Quinyon Mitchell, first-round pick out of Toledo at the cornerback spot? Might we see Donnie's guy, Will Shipley, wait until he takes the helmet off on a Friday night? Come on now, brother. We're not going to see Cooper DeJean, unfortunately, dealing with some injuries so far during training camp. And Donnie, not only does preseason give us a first glimpse at a team entering a new NFL year, and although it's not the same guys that we're going to see throughout the regular season, it gives us a time to forecast what the future holds. Both Philadelphia and Baltimore, the favorites to win their divisions. Both have the second best prices to win a conference championship. As you compare these two sides, who do you think ends up having a better season?
I mean, it's hard to say because here's what the penalty is going to be. You're not playing these games in a vacuum. And I mean by like, okay, same schedule for each one of these teams. How are they going to prevail? The reason I'm bringing this up is you look at the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys, we expect to be around 10 wins. We don't expect that for Washington. We don't certainly expect that for the New York Giants. Conversely, you flip it over to the AFC North. Each and every one of these teams legitimately can win that division and or get 10 wins, which means on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis, I should say, when you're playing those teams, you don't get a layup here on your schedule. Oh, look, we got this easy team at home this weekend. So I do give it up to the Eagles a little bit more, not because the team is better so much, but they might have an easier path than the Baltimore Ravens from their own division then.
Yeah, the AFC North is going to be a gauntlet. We will continue that conversation when we start hour 3. But plenty more to come around this Friday tripleheader in the NFL. Next.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's like it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost against Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
The bottom of this field is a bunch of guys, quite frankly, that aren't on the tour, aren't on the DP tour, aren't on the Corn Ferry tour.
You know, the top 25 or so in this field, I mean, you've got Rory, you've got Lowry, you've got Scheffler, you know, all 4 Americans, Minwoo Lee and Jason Day. And you go to Mito Pereira and Joaquin Neiman out of Chile. So, you know, it really is pretty deep.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
A triple header of NFL action on this Friday, week number 1 of the preseason. We started in Baltimore between the Ravens and the Eagles. Now we take the trip to the Steel City. That will be the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Houston Texans. This line stands out to me, DRS. 2.5-point spread in favor of the Texans, over under 37.5. Of course, for Houston, this will be their second preseason game of sorts. They played last week in Canton on a Thursday, 8 days ago in the Hall of Fame game. They lost to the Bears 21-17 in a rain and lightning shortened game that was postponed and then called. But what we do know, Justin Fields will get the start for Pittsburgh on the other side. Do we have any clarification as of yet if C.J. Stroud will make his preseason debut to start off his sophomore season in the National Football League?
I don't know if we do or not, to be honest. But at the same time, if we are looking, like, what is he going to get? Like maybe one series, hand it off, get in and out. So we're not expecting him to play probably like a full quarter. Maybe they're still saying, okay, this is our second game, but we have 4 games. So really our second game technically should be the following week. But the one thing that we do know about that quarterback situation is sometimes you like those betting tendencies, Ben, where the backup quarterback situation might be unsettled. Davis Mills versus Case Keenum. You want to give them an honest game plan. You saw the week before Bobby Slowick and that offense moving the football, already that dress rehearsal out of the way, so things probably looking on the up and up. But it'll be interesting to see how Pittsburgh handles their quarterback situation with Justin Fields, where if we're led to believe he has no chance to be the starter, then why not let him spend at least a full quarter in this game, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's going to get a lot of the run for the Steelers in this game. DeMeco Ryan saying earlier this week he expects to see the starters play a little bit in this preseason game. The guys need to get reps. So that's why Houston is booked as the favorite of 2.5 points. So maybe you look at the Steelers later in the game, a second quarter number if it is available, or a second half number. Let's see if the FanDuel Sportsbook is posting those types of things right now. Just a first half number at this point, where that first half spread sees Houston as less of a favorite, only laying 1.5 points. That's a little bit interesting. I would expect to see Justin Fields out there in a large way. That's Russell Wilson, not going to play tonight for Pittsburgh, but Mike Tomlin telling everybody earlier this week that despite Fields being named the starter for preseason week number 1, Russell Wilson is still the starter for the true week number 1 of the regular season. So now we get our first true glimpse at C.J. Stroud in his second year in the NFL, the Offensive Rookie of the Year after a sensational rookie campaign under a rookie head coach in DeMeco Ryans. But they came out of nowhere last year. We're gift-wrapped in a way, the AFC South, because of Jacksonville struggling down the stretch. And gift-wrap was probably not the right word, but Houston had to come and take it, and they did. But now they are the team that has to match the expectation. They are the team, DRS, booked as the short favorites to win the AFC South at plus 105. Where do you expect Houston to be by the end of 2024?
I look for them, hopefully, to be a better team than they were last year, which would be pretty impressive because last year they did win their division and did win a playoff game with a rookie quarterback. So we're expecting the skies to be the limit. We're not expecting them a sophomore slump, which is unfair to say that with C.J. Stroud. And certainly, we've talked about this many times already. What is the outlook that you're supposed to have for the Texans? And if you are saying, well, yep, I think they take a step back, based on what at this point? As the quarterback's not going to be as good as last year. They lost so many players on free agency. No, they actually added to this team. They look even more powerful this year in a division they should be able to handle, which means first game will be at home, should be able to win that playoff game again, and then maybe you go on the road, if not have home field advantage for that second game. So the expectations for me for the Texans are high because I can only go off, Ben, what I saw last year and a front office making the commitment to the team to add even more weapons, an extra pass rusher, an extra wide receiver in Diggs. So I don't know why we're expecting maybe them to take a step back unless you feel the Jacksonville Jaguars are the far superior team and just slipped up last year and they're ready to rebound. I'm not ready to do that. I do think the Texans, from player to player, love the head coach, are the most talented team overall in that division, and I expect them to win 10 games. I expect them to win that division. I expect them to win another playoff game this season. Anything less certainly would be a step back in that fashion. 8 wins, no division title, no playoffs. I don't see that coming. And unless you're just a contrarian, you probably won't see that coming either.
9.5 the win total for the Texans, as you saw, but the over has the heavy juice at minus 150. Double-digit wins is the expectation in H-Town. And, Donnie, I'm not even sure matching expectation of being a 10-win team or making the playoffs is enough this year for this Texans franchise with how great last year was out of nowhere and how successful the offseason has been deemed to be bolstering the roster, adding Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter on the other side of the football, and adding to that D-line under defensive-minded head coach DeMeco Ryans. I think many around this Texans side expects Houston to contend for an AFC championship. Is it a year too early? We shall see. We know what the standard is in Pittsburgh. Of course, the standard is the standard, but it is not winning less than 8 games. In the 17 years under Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh has never won less than 8 games in a regular season, has never had a losing record. Does that continue in the 2024 NFL season?
I think it does, because the one thing that you know from a Mike Tomlin team is they're going to be competent on a week-to-week basis. Now, you might yell and scream at what the offense is doing, but this team is built that way. Play really good defense, make plays on offense when you need. And quite frankly, we're thinking we got a quarterback upgrade in Russell Wilson. If you just take Russ's numbers last year from Denver, where they sort of, cut his legs out at the end of the season and transfer him over to the Steelers, that means they're going to have a competent offense here. Pickens is a very good wide receiver. You're waiting right now to see if Brandon Ayuk is added to that roster to go with Pickens. That would be incredible. You also have Harris at running back, a decent offensive line, a bone-crushing defense that's led by your 2 outside linebackers in Highsmith and Watt. There's a lot of positives on this team, but we just talked about the Baltimore Ravens. If you told me right now, hey, by the way, Donnie, the Steelers just got relocated to the NFC South, we're talking playoffs. We're talking a deep run here. But the fact that they play in the North here, that is absolutely incredible. On a week-to-week basis, you're going to have to be perfect to win double-digit games in that division here.
Yeah, completely agree. Listen, the Steelers have made it to the postseason 2 of the last 3 years with nothing on offense. Matt Canada, bye-bye. Arthur Smith, now the new OC for Pittsburgh. And I think Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, a large upgrade at the quarterback spot, probably in the last 3 to 4 years for this Steelers team. More around the NFL preseason next.
When it comes to betting on sports, injuries matter, and Sports Injury Central has you covered all year long with expert injury analysis and injury-based picks for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Our former pro sports doctors have unmatched experience to analyze every injury so you know the impact of the player, team, and their upcoming matchup. Whether it's articles, podcasts, player insights, or our patented injury scores, Sports Injury Central will help you keep up with your fantasy team and make more informed wagers. So make sure you follow Sports Injury Central and gain an edge at sixscore.com.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're legit 5 deep at receiver, 7 bona fide pass targets. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The bottom of this field is a bunch of guys, quite frankly, that aren't on the tour, aren't on the DP tour, aren't on the Corn Ferry tour.
The top 25 or so in this field, I mean, you've got Rory, you've got Lowry, you've got Scheffler, all 4 Americans, Minwoo Lee and Jason Day. And you go to Mito Pereira and Joaquin Neiman out of Chile. So, it really is pretty deep.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
Our third and final game to preview around the National Football League with a triple header of Friday night games in preseason week number 1. We go to Miami, South Beach, the site for the Dolphins and the Falcons in their preseason debut here in 2024. A lot of buzzworthy topics from this game, DRS, where the Dolphins are a 2.5-point home favorite, a total of 38 and a hook. Now, we're not going to see either starting quarterback more than likely tonight. Not Kirk Cousins for Atlanta, no Tua Tagovailoa for Miami. But the backup quarterbacks will be a focus, and it's a high total of 38.5 between two offenses we expect to probably lead the way in scoring in 2024.
Yeah, it does look like a pretty good matchup on paper, right? If you take the starters not playing, you still got some capable backups. We'll see if Michael Penix, how long he gets to spin tonight, but also Taylor Heineke on that roster and Nathan Rourke. You see that name pop up. The reason why you like players like that, been around the league here, but athletic enough to make plays with their legs late. You also take a look at the Miami Dolphins, front line look. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa probably not signing up tonight. Mike White, been around the league in the NFL. Same thing with Skylar Thompson. That's what we like. But also, sometimes I talk about this, Ben, even more. When you head into the preseason, what's the number one goal? Let's get some guys some film work, but the main goal is we don't want to get anybody to have any injuries here. The reason I bring this up, the Falcons lost Rondale Moore for the season already. One of those key contributors they expected to be one of those speedy weapons at wide receiver. When that happens, that sort of shakes up that coaching staff to say, okay, we can't afford to lose anybody else. Let's be extra careful, and maybe that plays into it. But still, you're going to have those quarterbacks out here, and I would say to myself, if I'm looking at a game that's supposed to go over the total, it's probably going to be this one, but really just with a little bit of a downgrade because that injury to Rondale Moore, you can't just be running extra wide receivers out there getting looks because this scares teams off, and it's the reason why we hate to see the preseason injuries because it already is so tough to stay healthy during the regular season than to lose starters before you even get to the starting block.
An injury on Wednesday afternoon to Rondale Moore in the joint practice between the Dolphins and the Falcons. Practice was called. Moore left the field in an air cast after his first 3 seasons in the NFL in Arizona. Was going to be a key piece to this offense, expected to be explosive in the ATL under Kirk Cousins. A huge blow already for the Atlanta Falcons. But let's talk backup quarterbacks here. Yes, 2 guys with experience battling it out for that reserve job in Miami. Mike McDaniel calling the backup quarterback competition between Skylar Thompson and Mike White neck and neck right now. So a proving ground of sorts tonight in preseason week number 1. But the main conversation on the other side, the stunning and shocking move in the opening round of the 2024 NFL Draft, 8th overall, the Atlanta Falcons, after signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal, drafting Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, again, 8th overall. So what's his plan to start off his NFL career? Word out of Atlanta, they expect to use him a lot in the preseason. But why necessarily? It's almost like a catch-22 and a lose-lose for the Falcons. If he goes out there and looks brilliant, then it's like, ooh, could this guy actually test Kirk Cousins for the top spot? And why do we pay Captain Kirk a ton of money? Or if he looks bad and this is his only game action, would Falcons fans be saying, what in the heck did we use a top 10 pick on this guy for? I don't love the situation for Michael Penix Jr. there in Atlanta.
No, well, it was the wrong draft pick for the Atlanta Falcons to make. Don't care how they spin it, but he's here on that team. We can't take that back. But he needs to get reps. So normally you'd say to yourself, and you're right, Ben, what happens if he gets hurt? What happens if he doesn't play well? Well, here's the issue that you have. This is a kid that, he has had some devastating injuries in his career, don't get me wrong. But let's just say going back to grade school football, he's playing every single year as possibly the best player on his team, which means he's getting hundreds of reps in practice, hundreds of reps in games. So we're saying to ourselves, he played high-level college football last year. Hey, by the way, buddy, just sit this one out where you get no reps throughout the season, and we're worried about you in the preseason even getting injured. He's got to let it spin out here, and I think it's a great problem to have because if Penix looks great in the preseason, I think that's a good problem to have. You're not benching Kirk Cousins, but boy, oh boy, Ben, doesn't it make you feel a little bit better about the future when you're ready to hand that torch off if this kid is playing well in practice and in preseason games and you expect him to step into a game situation if Kirk Cousins maybe gets injured, gets a concussion, hurts the Achilles, hurts the knee. You never know what's going to pop up. I think he needs to spin tonight and play well, but also I think he just needs to play.
Sure, for a quarterback that might not even start a game before the Falcons need to decide if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option It's a terrible situation in the ATL, but both the Falcons and the Dolphins expected to be double-digit win and playoff teams in 2024. An Olympic assessment up next here on the Early Line.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Schoen back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The bottom of this field is a bunch of guys, quite frankly, that aren't on the tour, aren't on the DP tour, aren't on the Corn Ferry tour.
You know, the top 25 or so in this field, I mean, you've got Rourke, you've got Lowry, you've got Scheffler, you know, all 4 Americans, Minwoo Lee and Jason Day. And you go to Mito Pereira and Joaquin Neiman out of Chile. So, you know, it really is pretty deep.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
A game in Olympic basketball history that we all shall remember for a very, very long time. Helping us break down the madness that was the fourth quarter comeback for the United States yesterday against Serbia and what lays ahead in the gold medal game on Saturday afternoon. Bill Bender from Sporting News is here on this Friday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Bill, we appreciate the time as always. Thank you for being here for yet another Olympic assessment entering the final weekend of the games over in Paris.
Yeah, I'm still sweating through my shirt after yesterday's game. What a comeback. What a fun matchup. You know, Serbia was just hitting. I think I said that on the show earlier this week. It's dictated by the three-point game. They hit 5 threes in each of those first 3 quarters. They couldn't miss. My son was losing his mind. And USA clamped down on them on the fourth quarter. What a comeback. What a game. What a moment.
Bogdan Bogdanovic got things started early for the Serbians, scored a team-high 20 points for Serbia, but cooled off in the fourth quarter, and the United States rallied in that fourth and final quarter. Down by 13, entering the fourth stanza, the Americans win the fourth 32-15 to come all the way back and continue the chase for a 5th consecutive gold medal, 95-91 over Serbia. Bill, there is so much that we could look back on from yesterday's game, even in the final 10 minutes that were the fourth quarter. What will you remember most from the American comeback over Serbia?
LeBron James taking over the game. Obviously, Steph Curry, and I think early, I missed him by a game, by the way. The game before, I thought he would go off. It was yesterday. So sorry to the bettors out there. I didn't know that he would go for 34 points and not miss from 3 and keep them in the game. But LeBron James getting a triple-double, and LeBron James guarding Jokic, and LeBron James doing all the things that he does at his age. You can tell how much this means to him and Kevin Durant. Steph Curry. It's not quite a passing the torch moment when those guys are carrying the torch for Team USA. And what a moment it was. And now they go to a gold medal game where, it's another spread I look at, and this is tricky because France has played them tough in the past. Part of me thinks they're just going to blow them out with the momentum from that game. But this is a pretty good French team that they're going to play. And then I saw the analogy yesterday. It's like playing Syracuse and Rochester in the Elite Eight.
Ben loves that. Absolutely, the Syracuse Orange out here. Yesterday, we did see, Bill, sometimes we see it in athletics where you're down, let's just say 15, 17, or 20 points. You claw back and get close, but you can't take the lead, which is what happened with Team USA yesterday. Then Serbia extends it back up to double digits. That's what I thought was so impressive. Team USA coming back a second time with that second wind and getting that victory. Now we are going to see the gold medal matchup tomorrow, Team USA versus France, a 16-point favorite right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook and a total of 177.5. The one thing we love about the French team, back-to-back games as the underdogs in their own building were able to survive and advance. Are we looking for a closer game at this point? Because I know you already alluded to it. It might be a blowout. What do the French need to do against Team USA to hang around?
That's the same recipe. They need to hit threes. They can't shoot 6 of 27 from 3 like they did against Germany. If they do, this will be a blowout, in my opinion. They've got size, obviously. Wembanyama is so fun to watch for him. And they do have experience against Team USA. They played Team USA in 2020. It was a close game. I went back and looked at that box score. If you remember a guy that could be a guy that you want to hit on a prop in this game, Kevin Durant had 29 points. Now, granted, that was 4 years ago, but it was a close game. They're at home. I mean, you can't be any more home than they're at. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. I'm interested to see how the crowd cheers, right? Like, because we're in Paris, but it's Team USA. So is this going to feel like one of those, I always use the analogy, Game 7 when I was at the Cubs Cleveland World Series, everybody was cheering every play because the stands was 50-50 in this World Series game. And I think that's the type of atmosphere we're going to have this weekend.
3:30 p.m. Eastern time here stateside. The gold medal match between the United States and France. Team USA looking for its 5th consecutive gold medal. But that streak really means nothing in comparison to the United States women's basketball team hoping for 60 consecutive wins in Olympic competition and a berth in a gold medal match today as well. They will take on Australia in the semifinal. Bill, the United States, a 14.5-point favorite. The total 161.5 against the Australians. They are seeking 60. That would be 60 wins in a row in the Olympic Games, dating back to the 1992 Summer Games in Barcelona. First, will it happen outright? And then how decisive of a margin out of the United States are you expecting today against Australia?
I mean, this is another tricky spread. Yes, I think they're going to get to 60. What an amazing accomplishment. I think they're going to ride the formula of A.J. Wilson and Breanna Stewart. They've dominated inside. They dominated in the quarterfinals. When you have that size advantage, scoring, and the things that they have there. Now, granted, Australia, 6 WNBA players. It's not like they don't have players that can play. It's just, you mentioned that streak, a couple other streaks I saw. Team Australia, 0-20 against Team USA, 0-8 in Olympic play against Team USA. So they've done this plenty of times. I was going to make, didn't the Washington Generals wear green and gold? I can't remember. I mean, I don't want to drop that reference because as soon as I do, Team USA will lose. But I like Team USA to cover the number. It could be close. I think they're going to win by 18 to 20 points. I think that inside dominance will matter. And you want to take over on the points with A.J. Wilson, there's nothing wrong with that. She continues to dominate in these games.
If we take a look and have a little fun with these two matchups here, obviously it's not the gold medal round just yet for the women's Team USA going up against Australia, but
dominance of not losing for that long. We can forget about the whole Caitlin Clark drama. They've been that good no matter what.
A'ja Wilson, highest points props in this game, 21.5. She had 20 and 11 to lead the United States past Nigeria. A tight game against the Nigerians, who were a 26.5-point underdog, easily covering that margin, only losing by 14. The host nation, France, in women's basketball in the second semifinal of this Friday over in Paris. They're a 4.5-point favorite against Belgium. Could it be the Americans and the French in both of the basketball gold medal games? It seems there is a good chance of that. Now, Bill, we go to soccer, where Team USA in women's soccer is looking for a gold as well. Over a $2 favorite, minus 215 for the gold medal match tomorrow morning. They were supposed to take on Spain, but the Brazilians pulled off a huge upset earlier this week in that semifinal. Less than a minute left in this segment. Should the Americans come home with gold in women's soccer?
Yeah, it could be Marta's retirement party for Brazil. These two have been the most consistent in terms of getting to the medals. Love how Team USA has spread out the scoring between Sophia Smith, Mallory Swanson, Trinity Rodman, 3 goals each in this. Brazil's had trouble scoring. I think Team USA wins 2-0. I think it's a fun game, and they're going to have to play well, but I'm going to go with the Americans here.
It's supposed to kick off around 11 a.m. Eastern time. By the way, Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Mal Swanson, they want their nickname to be for the trio up front for the Americans, Triple Espresso. So just remember that, Triple Espresso tomorrow for the team to lead the United States. Bill Bender of Sporting News, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk some more NFL up next on The Early Line.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The bottom of this field is a bunch of guys, quite frankly, that aren't on the tour, aren't on the DP tour, aren't on the Corn Ferry tour.
You know, the top 25 or so in this field, I mean, you've got Rourke, you've got Lowry, you've got Scheffler, you know, all 4 Americans, Minwoo Lee and Jason Day. And you go to Mito Pereira and Joaquin Neiman out of Chile. So, you know, it really is pretty deep.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Yesterday around the National Football League, we had a conversation of a long-standing trend in the NFL. 19 of the last 21 years, a team that has finished dead last in a Division I season has won the divisional crown the very next year. How about the opposite trend? A team finishing in first, making its way down to the basement and finishing in last. We start in the NFC. Here were the divisional champs from a year ago. In the NFC South, Baker Mayfield leading the Buccaneers to their third consecutive divisional title. We know the trend in the NFC East that we will discuss. The Cowboys taking home their second NFC East crown in the last 3 seasons. The Lions winning a divisional championship for the first time in 3 decades, and the Niners dominant in the NFC West with a 12-5 record. DRS, of the 4 divisional champs around the NFC from a season ago, in your estimation, who has the best chance of now finishing dead last in 2024?
Yeah, this is a much tougher question because you're looking at some quality teams here, but also outside of you just saying, Ben, like, well, I think the Cowboys will be in dead last because Dak's going to get hurt, CeeDee Lamb's not going to play, Michael Parsons going to sit this one out, they're going to fire their head coach. You see where I'm going with this? It's hard to say to yourself, starting with the Buccaneers who won the division last year, if there was one team that maybe could end up on the bottom as opposed to top, it probably would be the Buccaneers. But also, you do know what that means. That means the Carolina Panthers will be a better team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entering into the season, which makes it tough. Again, outside of, well, Baker Mayfield goes off the rails, he gets hurt, Godwin gets hurt, Evan gets hurt. You can't play that game, so it is tough. The Cowboys at 12-5. We know you can basically print the script every year without devastating injuries. The Cowboys are talented. They have a solid quarterback. They have a lot of weapons. There's no reason that they would finish below the Giants or let's just say the Washington Commanders without injuries. Take a look at the Lions. Now, the Lions might be one that's interesting because, I'm not just being a contrarian and saying, I'm going to go against the Lions because they were good last year. They can't be good this. That doesn't make any sense. They are talented. They kept their offensive coordinator. Let's just say Ben Johnson moved on. Maybe you could say, like, ooh, he was the catalyst maybe to that football team being so good on offense. Maybe we don't have the trust in the new offensive coordinator. But he's back there. Jared Goff got a new deal. Amon-Ra St. Brown got a new deal. That is a team on the rise. It's hard to believe that they would finish last. But there's a lot of good football teams in that division. And if you're just writing off the Minnesota Vikings, outside of if J.J. McCarthy starts or maybe you don't get a good season out of anybody else at quarterback, you might be saying to yourself, that's the team that should be in last place. But again, there's a lot of talent there. The 49ers, what are you expecting here? Trent Williams to sit out. Ayuk gets traded away. Christian McCaffrey's calf never heals. They wind up in last place. This is a lot tougher to decipher. If you said, Donnie, you had to go with one team here. You can't cop out and say, I don't like any of them. I guess it would be the Buccaneers. But again, that means Carolina needs to finish ahead of them, which is going to be a tall task.
So from the odds perspective, I think it's very clear it is Tampa Bay. But from the historical perspective, would it shock us to see Detroit in last in the NFC North based on 30-plus years? No, it shouldn't. But based on the expectation this year, if the Lions finished in last in the division, a division that's not supposed to be overly bad, the Vikings win total is 7.5. The under has a small bit of the juice. But yes, it would be shocking if Detroit was in dead last. Now, I'm not picking the Cowboys to win the NFC East once again, and how could you? The last 19 years around the NFC East, we have not seen a repeat divisional champion since the Eagles in 2004, and the Cowboys won the division a season ago. Philadelphia now the odds-on favorite to win the NFC East. Everything at the Star is bad. Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay CeeDee Lamb. He is not going to pay more than likely Dak Prescott. And Mike McCarthy is on the warmest seat you have ever seen in the final year of his contract. But Donnie, even 2 years ago, when the Eagles had the best record in the NFL, 14-3, and won the NFC East, where were the Cowboys? Not 8-9, not 6-11. They were 12-5. They've won 12 games each of the past 3 regular seasons. So no, I do not believe Dallas is going to finish in last in the NFC East. So now you must go to the odds. The Buccaneers win total is only 7.5. The over has the juice. Tampa won the division with a 9-8 record a year ago. The NFC South now features the Falcons, who are expected to win double-digit games and are an odds-on favorite to take home the divisional title. So the idea of the NFC South being one of the worst divisions in football might stand true for everybody else, but to win the divisional crown, not necessarily the case. DRS, as I look at the Buccaneers, though, and you look at the divisional prices, plus 310, second best number for Tampa, New Orleans third best price at plus 380. If you went back to 2 years ago when the Buccaneers in Tom Brady's final NFL season won the division, albeit with a losing record, Tampa was 8-9, Everybody else, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Carolina, 7-10. So technically they tied for second or tied for last. That would be a reality, I think, for the Buccaneers if we are going to see a divisional champ from a season ago finish in dead last this year.
Yeah, and also you're taking a look at Atlanta. It looks like, Kirk Cousins at quarterback maybe solving that situation here. Hopefully they don't get any more injured in the preseason, as we already pointed out, losing Rondale Moore. But also, last year for me, like the New Orleans Saints were my squad. Like I had them a team total over and also thought they could win that division. They get Carson. They're just missing a competent quarterback, which he is. And they were so disappointing last year all the way through. And maybe Dave Canales was the elixir for your boy Baker being a very good quarterback last year. He's no longer there. So maybe taking a look at that Detroit angle that we were playing, if they had lost their offensive coordinator, maybe things would change. We'll see what happens. And we're not expecting doomsday. Baker's a solid NFL quarterback. They have talent around them. But I just wish that maybe Carolina had a slightly better season last year where you can buy in and say, okay, bounce back for New Orleans, competent performance by Atlanta, and Carolina can somehow come around that 7 or 8 win range, which could push the Buccaneers to that lower level. We'll see how it plays out here. But again, this is why we're talking about it. It's very hard to say one of these teams is going to be behind a very bad team, but it's the NFL. Parity is king. And to be quite honest, one of these teams probably will wind up in the basement in the division. It's just hard to visualize at this point right now before we get to the regular season.
Very difficult to predict, to say the least, and there's not necessarily a market involved or correlated to this outside of win totals or divisional prices. It is interesting in the NFC South. Both the Bucs and the Saints, 7.5 the win total. Both have heavy juice on the over, but even that would be a losing record. We have the same conversation, first to worst in the AFC next.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's like it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
The bottom of this field is a bunch of guys, quite frankly, that aren't on the tour, aren't on the DP tour, aren't on the Corn Ferry tour.
You know, the top 25 or so in this field, I mean, you've got Rourke, you've got Lowry, you've got Scheffler, you know, all 4 Americans, Minwoo Lee and Jason Day. And you go to Mito Pereira and Joaquin Neiman out of Chile. So, you know, it really is pretty deep.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Is it possible for a team who won a division around the National Football League a season ago to finish last this upcoming year in 2024? We did first to worst in the NFC. Now we turn our attention to the other conference and the AFC. The champions of the AFC East now going on 4 straight years It's the Buffalo Bills, a slight favorite to win this division for a 5th consecutive season, although the price in the gap in front of the New York Jets shortening as we speak, plus 165. The Ravens, the champs of the AFC North a season ago, but in the most competitive division in football, not going to be easy to go back to back. The Texans, the favorites to win the AFC South. They did so last year out of nowhere. And if you talk divisional dominance, it starts with Kansas City. 8 straight titles in the AFC West, minus 230 to make that 9 in a row. The best price of any team to win any division all around the National Football League. Donnie, we asked you to do the NFC. You got to do it in the AFC. If we asked you to pick one divisional champ from last year to finish in last, who would it be?
Well, number one, we're just going to remove the AFC West and the Kansas City Chiefs because if Patrick Mahomes is there just healthy, there's no way, shape, or form they're going to be anywhere near last place. So let's just remove them from the equation. Let's go over the other teams. The Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. I do have decent expectations for them. This still is a tough division because why? We're expecting the Jets to have a bounce-back performance this year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and also Miami always flying high in the regular season, which leaves us with the New England Patriots that we don't have high expectations for, which is why it's so hard to say the Buffalo Bills will be in the basement because that means that the New England Patriots will finish ahead of them. The Baltimore Ravens in the AFC North, one of my favorite regular season football teams as long as Lamar Jackson is there. And again, we're anticipating these guys, particularly the quarterbacks, being healthy for the season. There's no way I'm voting them out, even though they have the toughest road, and that division is going to be hell on wheels. But Lamar Jackson, the regular season, is damn sure unstoppable. I don't think they're finishing in last, which brings me to the Texans here. If we're being honest, there is a chance that they can regress. I'm not saying they're going to do that. Every time you bring up the Texans for me, I'm high on them. But you also have some uncertainties there saying, okay, new players on the team, new expectations. How do you handle it as opposed to last year? Hey, let's just see what we can do. Oh, my goodness, we took the NFL by storm. That's not going to happen this year. Defensive coordinators get better in the offseason of maybe finding out what C.J. Stroud doesn't want to do well. Also, what do we take a look at the Indianapolis Colts? They could have lightning in a bottle with Richardson at quarterback here as opposed to last year watching Gardner Minshew. That's something to watch out for. I mean, a little bit higher on the Titans than most people are, but already getting injured with Hopkins early in the season. When does he come back? That throws a wrench into it. So just to make a tough decision once again, maybe it is just about the odds at a plus 105 to win that division, but I'd go with the Texans. It's not a slight on the Texans. This is just a hard question to answer with what we know based on what we saw last year and expectations heading into 2024.
Very, very difficult to answer or even try to make an argument for. I asked you to make a pick. I'm not sure there's a great pick here from the odds perspective in the AFC. I think there was an argument to be had about Tampa Bay based on the odds, plus 310, just a win total of 7.5 in the NFC South, but that would need the Carolina Panthers to have a year above expectation with a win total of 5.5. Where really is that argument in the AFC? Donnie, if anything, I actually think it's in the AFC North. Here's why I say it. It's expected to be the best division in football. It's the most competitive division in football. Last year, even without Joe Burrow for 7 games in the regular season, the Bengals were still 9-8. Everybody in the AFC North finishing with a winning record. Is there a chance these teams split their divisional matchups, all 6, and there's great parity in the division? I would believe so. Now, Baltimore would be so below expectation, even finishing with just 9 wins. But it's not like predicting a team to regress to the point of 5-12. If all 4 teams in the AFC North were to be above 500, which could happen, maybe Baltimore is on a slide. I don't really think so. I am not a believer in the Titans. Thus, I don't think the Texans drop below Tennessee. And a lot of people expect the Bills to take a step back from where they have been the last half decade in the AFC East and around the National Football League. I don't know if I'm buying that as much, but maybe they take a step back and don't win the division. They're not going to be worse than the New England Patriots in the AFC East.
Yeah, as it all breaks down, there is some valid points to be made where you can say, hey, just came in last place with 9 wins, which could be the Baltimore Ravens. So there's something to be said for that. The one thing that we do know in that division, you don't have anybody that's supposed to be in last place per se, like the other divisions have technically.
We'll continue talking football on a Football Friday when Hour 3 comes your way next.